So the autumn is drawing near. We're getting more rain. We've had plenty of rain. But what that means is new bikes are being released. So today we have got new bikes from Trek. We've got the Rail, the Powerfly, the Powerfly FS, and we've got an update on the Gen 5 Bosch CX motor. Hi folks, I'm Jason and welcome to eBike-centre. So as we discussed, we've got the brand new range of EMTBs from Trek to discuss. So they are launched today and we're going to start off with the Powerfly, followed by the Powerfly FS, and then finishing with the Rail, which is what everyone really wants to know about. Not everyone, but a lot of people do, obviously. But to start with, we have a few snippets of information from, well, not from Bosch, but about Bosch, because obviously this motor's been fitted to these bikes. So we want to know what's new. So with the new Gen 5 motor, what we do know is that it is slightly smaller than the previous generation. So it sits somewhere between the old Performance Line CX motor in terms of size and the current Bosch SX motor. So a little bit smaller. It's now fitted with 2 mounting bolts as opposed to 3, which makes it easier for the manufacturers to fit around their suspension systems. They can put shorter chainstays on there, for instance. Gives the manufacturers of the bikes a little bit more flexibility. In addition, we know that it is quieter than the previous generation. It's meant to be more lifelike in its application. We also know that it's meant to be kicking out 85 Newton meters of torque, which is exactly the same as the old CX. But when the old CX was launched about 4 or 5 years ago, it was launched with 75 Newton meters and then got upgraded to 85. So it's possible that then we might see a similar thing happen with this motor. But at the moment, Bosch are staying very, very coy on the update on this motor. So at some point, which ironically will probably be released the same day as I'm releasing this video, Bosch will come out with it, and I've already re-recorded this video and now it's out in the ether. But for now, this is what we know. We also know there's going to be a new 600 watt-hour in-tube battery, as well as an 800 watt-hour power tube battery as well. This has got a much lower density, so higher, wrong way around, much higher density of electric per cell, let's say. So it's going to be much lighter, much smaller than the previous generations. Other than that, that's pretty much all we know so far. So we're looking forward to seeing it as well. There's been a few images of it. It's now attached to bikes. It doesn't look a great deal different. We know that this motor ultimately has been the most popular e-bike motor out there. It's arguably the best. So now, moving on to the first bike from Trek, we're going to start with the Powerfly. So this hardtail mountain bike has been a staple of ours and for many people for a long time. It's been around a little while, and this particular I know there's been a couple of generational differences that have purely changed from the Bosch Smart system, from the BS2 system, but the bike itself has stayed the same. It's been around, I think, since 2020, so it's fairly old now, fairly long in the tooth. It's been a great bike, and the new bike does look to be a vast improvement, certainly aesthetically. When the original Powerfly came out, I thought it was a fantastic looking bike, but incredibly, now that you look at it versus the old bike versus the new bike, you suddenly go, oh, the old bike looks rubbish. But it clearly isn't, but the new one just looks that much better. There is definitely some focus bike vibe about it, and that's definitely not a bad thing. I know Trek won't like me saying that, but it does look a little bit focusy in its design, and focuses, I think, look fantastic. So it does look down a little bit more angular than the previous model. Decals are a little bit more subtle. It's got two-tone paintwork, a bit focusy. And which, to be fair, Focus stole from Orbea. So, and actually, frankly, prior to Orbea having it, Trek had it, so it's gone full circle. Anyway, the big sort of headline facts to consider now is the new Powerfly 4 comes in cheaper than the old Powerfly, and it's better. So, fantastic. Comes in basically £500 cheaper. It has a 600 watt-hour battery option in the Powerfly 4 and has an 800 watt-hour option in the Powerfly 6. But they start finally with rather than a nonsense coil sprung fork, which is an absolute bugbear of mine. You're spending £3 on a bike, and you'd see Trek, you see Specialized fitting a coil sprung front fork to their bikes. They haven't done that now. It's air sprung. It's still a Suntour. It's the XCR, which is not the best fork on the market by all means, but it's significantly better than the coil sprung version. It's now fitted with the Purion 200 display as well. Shimano Q's gearing, and it's got a lower standover height. It's quite similar in its geometry to the old Powerfly. They've extended the reach slightly, a shorter stem, which again is more inclined with sort of the modern geometry that you see out there. 120mm travel, which is the same as its predecessor. Certainly aesthetically it looks a lot better, and they have improved the base spec and lowered the price, so that for me is a win. Right, moving on to the Powerfly FS. So much like the Powerfly, it has improved immensely in its looks. In fact, the change between the old Powerfly FS and the new one is drastic. The old Powerfly was a little bit of an ugly duckling, if Trek don't mind me saying so. They went for a very low standover, and it had a very strange suspension linkage setup, and it did a good job, but it could have done a better job, and it wasn't particularly attractive, and it could have handled better. It does appear at first glance that the geometry looks significantly better on this. It's, again, a much more modern geometry. It's got a longer reach. It's more trail focused. You're now talking 130mm front suspension travel, 120 mid. It's got the option of a 600 or an 800 battery, depending on which model you choose. Entry level prices start at $4,125. It's got the, like actually both bikes do, have the ability to have the 250 watt hour Bosch PowerMore range extender added to it as well. Some of the bikes further up the tree have the Kiox 300 display option in there as well. Other things to bear in mind is both Powerflies, the FS and the standard Powerfly hardtail, have the option to be set up fully equipped. So that is with mudguards, pannier racks and lights. So if you wanted a bike that you want to use for work as well as some playtime at the weekend, both of these bikes would fit that. As well as if you wanted a slightly more comfortable touring bike, then you can use a Powerfly FS because you've got the ability to go anywhere as well. You can go off the beaten track more on the Powerfly FS than you could do on a normal Powerfly or on a traditional trekking bike. So that is where we are with both of those bikes. Main thing for me is how much better they look. Like, they just, yeah, it's a fantastic upgrade to certainly aesthetically, and I would fully expect the riding characteristics to be a significant improvement as well. And finally, we're moving on to the TREK Rail, and that is a big oh, good. Right, let's try again. The TREK Rail has been a favourite of mine for a long time. I've had one, I've ridden lots of them. It has been around though since 2019, so it is very, very long in the tooth. Since then, there has been many more competitors that have come out that have improved their bikes versus the TREK Rail, and the TREK Rail has started to fall a little bit behind the pack. So it is great that we have a new one, and it does look like they've taken a lot on board of what their competitors have done and improved their bikes in lots of ways. So to start with, you have got mixed wheel sizing, which you haven't seen on a Trek full suspension e-bike certainly before. So we have got 29-inch at the back, no, 29-inch, oopsie, 29-inch at the front, like and sorry. This will improve the bike's sort of more playful characteristics, because it used to be a really solid, stable bike on the descents, on the fast descents, but wasn't quite as nimble through the tighter turns. So this is hopefully going to be a massive improvement. We have a slacker head angle now, so 64.5 degrees on the head angle, which is actually adjustable as well, but you do need to buy different cups directly from Specialized. No, not from Specialized. From Trek. So you need to buy those from Trek, and they are, well, yeah. It gives you some more adjustment. There is also more adjustment. You can change the leverage rate, as there is some adjustment on the shock there, and there is the minnow link, which you can change the rear triangle as well. So more customizable options, more options to customize. And so let's go to the motor side of things. Obviously, it's fitted with the new Performance Line CX Gen 5 motor, which, as we said, is smaller, lighter, and less noisy, blah, 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 blah. But they're fitting the 800 battery to all of their bikes. So across the range, you have got 800 watt hour battery in the 5, which is the Alloy entry level bike, all the way up to the 9.9. There are now 2 Alloy bikes in the range, not 3. They have got a 6 and an 8. They have ditched the 5 and the 7. Who knows why? But it seems to be the way they're doing it. And then anything with a 9 in front of it is now a carbon frame bike. So they've got a 9.7, 9.8 and 9.9. The 9.8s and 9.9s have got SRAM or Shimano options, depending on what you want. And we're talking entry level 5,000, top end 12,000. So big changes between the two. But what is interesting is at the entry level, you have got a much better bike than you had previously. So it's marginally cheaper than the predecessor. It's about £150 cheaper than the current or the outgoing Rail 5, but you get an 800 battery versus a 625. So significant improvement. And the other really big improvement that I've been pleased to see is they have ditched the RockShox 35 fork, and they fitted the brand new RockShox Silo, which is a vast improvement. And actually, while we're talking about forks. I haven't told you the travel. Idiot. So yeah, 160mm front and rear, so full on enduro bike this time. There is the option to put a 180mm travel fork on the front, but that's not a standard item. That would be an upgrade that you do yourself. But going back to the silo fork on the Rail 5, it is nice to see a decent fork fitted to an entry-level enduro bike. The silo is not just a great entry-level fork, it is a great fork, period. It is a really, really good fork. So lots of people will be actually upgrading to the silo from things like RockShox 35s. But this does mean that if you buy a Rail 5 and that is your budget, and you're not a huge aficionado and want to have all the best stuff, this bike is now really set up to cover pretty much what everyone needs. 12 speed again on the entry level stuff, but then as you go up the tree, you start going to XT, SRAM Axis or AXS, however you want to call it, all the way up the range. Top end of the range, they're fitting RockShox Zebs again. Awesome fork, and there's just more bells and whistles as you would expect as you go up the range. They can also take the new PowerMore battery from Bosch, so that does mean that you can have over 1,000 watts of battery life if you need it, but 800 is a lot. And as we said, the 800 battery is more dense than the old 750, so weight-wise they should be similar, or possibly the 800 is lighter, but we don't know yet because we haven't had that info from Bosch. So talking about the previous Rail, and actually this covers most of TREK's range, actually all of their mountain bike range, they have the R.I.B integration system, so removable integrated battery, very, very unique name. But the R.I.B system was good, but it had quite a few problems. One being you had to have as it came out the side of the bike, it had to have basically a body coloured, or a frame coloured case on it, which meant if you scratched the case, you had to buy a new one and they weren't cheap. If you dropped the battery, you scratch the case, dent the case, and they were expensive. But the bigger issue with it was they could rattle a little bit. Certainly on the big batteried rails, so the 750 rails in the carbon frame, they were renowned for becoming a little bit rattly, and that was annoying. So they've got rid of that, and they have now the R.I.B 2.0, which now comes out from underneath the frame. So much like everyone else does it. It's easier to get, it's probably not easier to access actually, I'll take that back. The side entry was very easy. It now drops out from below the frame. It does also mean that when you're putting it on the back of a car, it isn't as exposed if you take the battery out as it was when you had it on the side. But the big difference is it's not gonna rattle around, which is great to see that TREK have found a flaw and they've resolved it. I think the new Rail could be a massive hit because they've taken what was a great bike, which was a little bit long in the tooth, as I said, but it does look like they've made all the right changes to this bike, so we very much look forward to riding one. And on that bombshell, we have come to the end of our video today. So, new Powerfly, new Powerfly FS, new Rail, all exciting things to look forward to. As soon as we have our hands on one, we will bring you a review video where we test them and tell you if they are as good in real life as they look on paper. If we don't see you in store, before that, you need to like and subscribe.
That's right.
Yes, do that. If we don't see you in store, we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheers.